Hello and welcome to Optimized, a marketing performance podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm Janet Rosseth, your host and a 25-year veteran of multifamily marketing. This podcast is going to challenge you to reach 1% better somewhere in your daily life, and optimizing is how we'll do that together. Whether it's bringing your personal best to your work and life, building efficient work processes, uncovering new trends, or making sense of meaningful data, we'll dig in together and find that 1%. Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Optimized, a marketing performance podcast. I'm your host, Janet Rosseth, and here today to bring you 1% better somewhere in your daily life, in your role, in the information you produce, or the changes you're making across your organization or personally. I am really thrilled to have Kelsi Cory joining me today. Hi, Kelsi.
Hey, Jared. Thank you so much again for having me on the show. I can't wait to dive into all the things.
Listeners, I just have to tell you that Kelsi and I have been trying to put this podcast together for a couple months now, and we have had to reschedule a few times over, which happens, but we just sat and chatted for probably 20 minutes without the mic on, and we cannot wait to bring you this episode because the conversations are really good. If you don't know Kelsi, you should know Kelsi. You should follow her immediately on LinkedIn, Kelsi Cory, Cory. She leads an executive search firm, and Kelsi, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and you're going to tell it best, but I'm a major fan, so I can't wait to chat today.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Janet, again for having me on the show. I love all the things that you're doing inside the space. It's absolutely incredible, and yeah, we finally made it. We finally made it to the mic today, so I hope we can bring some value forward to your audience and your guests. But essentially, I'm Kelsi Cory. I own an executive search firm, anything in real estate. So whether that's multifamily, SFR, BTR, student housing, commercial real estate, we recruit high-level leaders, place them all across the country, build high-performing teams, and very culture-driven. And then also our most latest venture, which many of you probably have been starting to see the chatter flowing, which is Leaders on Deck. That is our newest venture focused on the candidate division side and highlighting, featuring top talent, and all the cool things that we're rolling out as well with our hyper-focused job board. So there's so much going on over here. Of course, I know we're going to dive into it, but thank you again, Janet, for having me on the show.
Yes, I'm excited to chat. So you have literally been everywhere in the last couple of months. I open LinkedIn and you're there with a podcast and another podcast and another podcast and launch of Leaders on Deck. And I'm super impressed. First of all, I'm impressed with your marketing. I think you're doing a great job marketing. I'm impressed with your conversations, and I'm impressed with where you're going with your business. And it aligns really parallel to what we're doing over here with Cadence Marketing Solutions too, that we really set out launching this little company as a boutique consultancy to support marketing and optimize marketers. This industry really has a lack of support for marketers, and we felt like there was an opportunity to build a community and services around helping launch and grow multifamily marketers. And you're doing the same thing with Leaders on Deck and with executives and even potential executives who are looking for that place to grow organically and invest in themselves. And I recently did a podcast with Steve Matry, and we were talking about just the investment in yourself and growing your own career path and paving your own path rather than waiting for someone else to pave it for you. So I want to talk first, if we can, about Leaders on Deck and just the community that you've built, and tell us a little bit more about what all you're doing in that community, in that space.
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack, so feel free to cut me off at any point. So Leaders on Deck is something we're really passionate about. I mean, it's amazing to see. It's only been 6 months or so since we've really launched it, but the vision and the purpose behind it has been something, I guess, probably for the past 7 years, really has been in the making. And so it's amazing to see it kind of come forward and where we're heading and where we're going with the platform. But it's essentially a place for candidates from that are all walks of real estate. It could be mid-management, it could be executive level. I mean, it could even be entry level as well. But I'd say really our sweet spot is folks that are, at the manager to the executive C-suite who are wanting to push forward in a creative way to showcase that they're on the market, they're looking for their latest venture, and how do they cut through the noise? Because it's a very competitive job market. And honestly, like every season, at any time is always competitive. It's just different challenges that are going to come up. And so we came up with this idea of how do we really disrupt the recruiting sector and really showcase, because we have thousands of conversations with high level, talented leaders across all different departments. And it was like, okay, how can we really help leverage? We know how great they are. And then they're having all these like side, one on one conversations, but that's not amplifying their voice. That's not maximizing their visibility, right? Because when you go to market, you're looking for your next opportunity. One, it can be very overwhelming for anybody that is finding themselves, looking for their next new work home. But two, it's like, I think what makes us unique is we've built such an incredible brand here at Cory, and we have over 100,000 followers across our entire Cory network and platform. And we get about, I would say on average, over a 1 million views per month, which I'm really proud of
That's incredible.
to say. And so that's why it's a huge advantage to be able to partner with us at Leaders on Deck, because you're getting the visibility that we've spent a decade really spending time curating and gathering all these different hiring managers, decision makers, etc. So it's a place where you can feel really confident. You can come alongside in your journey, have those private, confidential conversations with our advisement team, and then actually get prepared to go to market. So you don't just get the news, right? Whether it's unexpectedly or expectedly, of what do I do now? And how do I put myself out there? What's going to make it the most effective and efficient and creative way so that I can broadcast that? And also, at the end of the day, I always think you kind of want somebody else to brag about you.
Yeah.
It's a fine line, right? Where you don't want to brag about yourself necessarily. So you want to partner with an organization with us where it's like, let us do the bragging for you. Let us really showcase who you are and edify everything that you've done up to this point and where you want to go. Because there's so much more class. There's so much more of, I would say, even your reputation. I think what's really cool about Leaders on Deck that I've seen such a transformation is the people that you've poured into over your entire career. They will show up for you
Hmm.
and they will engage on the post. They will support you in the best way. They'll make those introductions. They might not even have known you were on the market, right? Because it's not like you want to have 40 different conversations just letting people know you're aware of like looking. So this really allows people to come alongside you, whether they had that intimate relationship or not, to say, hey, my colleague, my past mentor, my advisor, my friend, or just somebody that I have, been watching from afar. I want to help support them as best as I can. And I think that's the power of our community at Leaders on Deck is it's really allowing people to show up for you and with you, and we're
Yeah.
building this community together. And that's what's so, amazing about what we're doing so far on the candidate division side. And then
Hmm.
also one of the newest ventures that we're just rolling out, so you're about to see a bunch of new promo and all the cool things, is that we just launched our hyper focused job board. And so we have this outlet for organizations that are like, look, I don't need to spend big bucks to go and get a full placement on this search, right? Because not every job needs that. But
Right.
they do want the visibility. They do want to have it to a very curated group of leaders that are going to see their opportunity to be able to fill those jobs in a fraction of the time. So now we offer through our job board to be able to promote, advertise, highlight your brand. You get all the applications and all the people. And we're also encouraging folks to apply, right? So it's really just partnering together as your brand ambassador in a very creative way to disrupt the space and say, there's so many different solutions we can be adding to the table. Our biggest goal is how do we get the leaders who are on and off the market back into the decision making seats. And that doesn't
Hmm.
need to take, longer than necessary. That is our biggest goal.
It's really cool. I just think There's always been executive search firms out there that help you package your resume, package your personal
Sure.
profile. But it sounds like what you're doing is not just helping package it and helping build the confidence of those people that are suddenly out searching. You're adding this leadership, this leaders on deck community, almost like an
Yes.
insurance package for people who you don't have to be out looking to be part of leaders on deck, right? You
Right.
can be someone who knows you want to continue to build on your career and you can invest in yourself like an insurance package to put yourself around other executives, other senior leaders, the Cory team to help learn what is important in your packaging and in your, profile. And then also it gets talked about. And just, I
Yeah.
know the value of the Cadence Run Club community. And you and I were just talking about this off camera, but
Yeah.
we started that community just to put people in a space together because marketers are often siloed in companies and departments. And so we have to
Yes.
learn from each other. So we created the space to learn from each other. But I just saw something so magical take place when we were all at AIM last week. Um, People would just no more than mention, like, hey, I feel like I'm outgrowing my position. I'm kind of starting to wonder if I should look and see what's out there. And it was like 15 close friends started opening doors, or not even just
I
opening
love that.
doors, but building confidence and saying, like, hey, here's what you're really good at and what I really appreciate
Yes.
about you and your strengths and your experience. Or even like, gosh, I always thought your position was had so much more opportunity to grow than some of the positions I've
Right.
seen because you have such, access to senior leaders. And it was like all these conversations were happening
Yes.
in this community that we never saw coming. People were attending the conference who wouldn't have had an opportunity to have attended before, but
Right.
someone in the community found them a path, found them a ticket, found them an Airbnb together to stay in. It was a community unlike any other I had envisioned, and I was so proud of it. And I know you're feeling the same about Leaders on Deck and the things that come of these communities because we all are out on LinkedIn. Well, okay, some of us are out on LinkedIn more than
Sure.
others.
Sure.
We have more time, we market our business there, but there's great people and great conversations on LinkedIn. But the power of true, real connections that are invested in to help one another grow, those are still really important. And
For
that's what you're bringing in this community is the opportunity for
yes.
people to join on, is it a subscription, a membership? How do you base that?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I love everything that you just shared too. And I think that that is the power of what we're building, right? And what you've built. And I feel like people just don't know until they get a taste of it. And they're like,
Mhm.
wow, there's,
Yeah.
you will get so much more out of it the more you put into it. And that's really like the mindset of going into any of these types of communities, and what they have to offer is there's so much that can, be beneficial long term,
Yeah.
short term, whatever direction it's going to go. But yes, a little bit more about like our membership packages is that if you're looking for, hey, I just really want to be featured, highlighted, I want to be broadcast, we have a package where it's just leaders on deck. You can go to our website. It's really affordable for you to get broadcast across our platform. If you're like, hey, Kelsi, I'm really looking for, I want that strategic advisement. I want to put my best foot forward. I don't want to spend 6 months on the market, then come back and then figure out, okay, what could I have done differently? What can I do now? How do I reposition myself? So I would say the go to market package to be a part of our community is one that is, it's, you would be a part of our membership community. It's a one time payment. You have access all year round to it. And it's really just getting exposure behind the scenes of how, what do we look for right in a resume, and what is really critical that people just, you don't know what you don't know. You can go to Google. There's a thousands of different advice and direction. What's cool and unique about what we're offering is we're real estate gurus, right? So we
Yeah.
know all the critical things when we are looking. And that's why I say we really specialize in this. I do not specialize in other industries. I specialize in real estate. So that's why I'm like, this is, if you are looking at how do you position yourself as a multifamily operational leader, right? How do you position yourself as a student housing, executive, right? What are those key things that we're looking for, and how do we make sure that you pop and that anybody looking at that? Because I think people don't really realize is that when you go and apply to a job or you're looking for your next opportunity, you don't know who's looking at your resume. You don't know how experienced or qualified also those people are when they are the first ones looking at your information. So if your information is not accurately portrayed in a very quick and I would say an effective and efficient time, somebody like us, right? I can look at a
Mhm.
resume and decipher pretty quickly, even if they don't have all the keywords. I can tell, do they make it on the calendar? Do they not? But some of these people are just newer to the sector. They might be new to the industry. So if you're not clearly articulating it, they could be passing you along and not even realizing it because they
Right.
just don't know what they don't know.
Well, and
And
how many
so,
layers are in between candidate and hiring manager? I
yes,
mean,
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
take us through a little bit what you know about the current job market in real estate and in multifamily and what's happening out there, because I'm hearing that a job hits the radar and 500 resumes come in, and it's kind of at the mercy of AI to match some keywords to get you even to the recruiter. And then you still got to get past the recruiter. And then there's the ghosting that happens.
Right.
So it's
Right.
tough. So if you want to really cut through all the clutter, you got to be pretty savvy. What you and I were talking earlier about what's happening in the job market right now. Can you take us through that?
Yes, so it's a lot to unpack with this. Every organization is going to be set up a little differently. You're going to have some that have a very short, quick process. I wish that was the case for most of it, but it's not. And then there's others where it's like there's a very lengthy process, and then there's some that are just a broken process in general. That
Yeah.
it's like I would say that's probably the most common one, and it's unfortunate because, right? I mean, a lot of people have experienced being ghosted. A lot of people have the right resume, they have everything correct, and they still are not making it to that decision maker or to that hiring manager. And I would say the challenges that come forward is that once you apply to a job, it's very common to have, I mean, even here at Corey, I mean, we, depending on what job it is, if it's like a VP of operations, we definitely are going to get over 1,000 applications. And that's not an exaggeration. Here's the
Wow.
thing though. When you see that there's a lot of applications, don't be I would say it's really important that you still move forward and apply. Here's why. Because a lot of those numbers, I would say if you have 1,000 applications, especially if you're looking at personality hire, culture hire, skills hire, right? You have to combine and location, comp, all of that together. You are only looking at maybe 5% of those applications really fit the criteria. So,
That's
yes,
so
there
much for
are
an employer to
1,000.
weed through.
Yes, and it's a lot. And so it really depends on who is looking at these
Mhm.
applications. Every organization has it a little bit set up differently. Some have their own dedicated, like, right, actual in house recruiting talent acquisition team. Other folks have just their HR manager, which HR managers, right, they have a whole other responsibility. Doesn't mean recruiting is their sweet spot, right? That's
Right.
actually two separate departments, but HR typically does get the responsibility of also hiring. And so that doesn't always mean, right, if they're hiring for multiple different roles, different criterias, different challenges in those portfolios, different types of personalities you're looking for, there's so much nuance that goes into it. So I think it's really important that when that happens is one, always apply. You just never know. Two, if you are really good at, looking and assessing very quickly, I would say the more information, the better. But it's not just more, it's more critical SEO driven metrics, unit count, what portfolio, multi state, how many people did you manage? I want to know everything in a quick highlight. I want to know if you manage Class A properties, if you're a value add expert. Those are things that are immediately going to say, oh, I want to put you on my calendar today. You answered everything I was just looking for, versus the person either has really no information. And then you're like, but I've got 10 other people that got all the information I'm looking for. I don't have the time and the capacity to vet you out now. So you have to be pushed over. Or,
Right.
right, you have too much. You have a whole novel,
Mhm.
but there's no meat and potatoes. It talks too much about the overview and not enough about the specifics. So they might have a lot of general senses of what you've
Yep.
done, but I don't actually know what you've done. So if that takes a lot more work, I might put you in the B category of I might get to you at some point, but if you can lay it out, and that's part of our community package, right? We go in and walk you through what do you need on your LinkedIn? What is absolutely critical on your LinkedIn? What is going to be driving and pulling your application up behind the scenes on LinkedIn Recruiter License, right? So things that the general public would not necessarily have access to, that's going to help put your information at the very forefront. And I think that is, I mean, that and please put your contact information on
I'm
LinkedIn.
hearing all of this, Kelsi, and all I'm hearing is it is legitimately marketing, SEO, and SEM
Yes,
for
it
you,
really
for
is.
your resume. It is not just throw your resume together and hope for the best. That's,
Yes.
that's what we call, lazy marketing, that you throw a
Yes.
simple ad out and then you expect that to fill the vacancy, but you end up with
Right.
long running vacancy loss while you try to spend more money to fill a unit, right?
Yes.
Same thing with investing upfront and putting your best foot forward
Right.
and investing in how you handle your optimization online, how you handle your keywords, all of it.
Yeah.
It's packaging. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Tell me, I want to shift it for a second because you and I talked a little bit about marketing roles out there. And I mean, we're a
Yes.
marketing podcast, so we should talk about it.
Of
Um,
course.
what's happening in marketing out there?
Yes. So I've been meaning to put a post out about this, and I'm glad we're bringing it up. I would say in most markets, at least for real estate, I can talk to is typically when there's an economic change or there's some shifts happening inside the market, two main departments get hit the most, and it's HR and marketing. Those are the most impacted. They will get laid off. Their roles will get cut and they'll get trimmed down. And they also are the longest to come back into the market. Now, what I've witnessed, so far in this past, or I would say even 18 months, but really the last
Mhm.
year, I would say HR is starting to finally pick back up. A lot of those roles
Yep.
are starting to kind of resurface, but marketing has really been heavily impacted the most. And I would
Yep.
say specifically leadership marketing. So we are starting to see a shift with more managerial leaders coming back on. So a lot of marketing manager roles that are starting to come back. But when we're looking at vice president of marketing, right? If we're looking at the director, if we're looking at the C-suite, CMOs, those roles, we're seeing a huge influx. And I would
Hmm.
say definitely the past 12 months. And if not like even more right now, this exact last quarter, is there's so much incredible talent inside the marketing and it's just piling up. I mean, the
Yeah.
leaders are piling up. They have incredible tenure. They've worked for some of the best brands. They have the most type of experience you want to see. And yet there's not enough opportunities out there. There's so much of an influx of talent that it's like, okay, then what do you do at this point? And I would say, and I don't know when it's going to be coming back,
I think
but
there's
what
some
I
interesting things that happened there. I mean, you go back even to the end of 2023. I
Mhm.
remember it like it was yesterday, right? Um, everything was ticking along great. And then property insurance hit on the
Yes.
budgets, and then
Right.
property taxes hit. And those increases were
Mhm.
anywhere from 18 to 30%. Those are
Right.
hard costs on property budgets that
Right.
you can't wiggle your way out of, right? You can't just
Yeah.
sharpen your pencil or, you know, refine your strategies. Those are hard costs, and those really impacted marketing from what we saw in our consultancy. And you also, no two marketing departments are created alike in this industry.
Right.
None,
Right.
none, not
Right.
even roles. I mean, there is
Exactly.
such a vast difference in capabilities and strategies and how departments are defined in this industry. And for some, it's, managing outsourced talent across vendors. For
Mhm.
some, it's tackling in house some of those campaigns and strategies. So you've got people that bridge all styles of marketing and management and leadership, in house teams and outsourcing out here. And
Right.
you and I talked about this too, but I have seen some of that high level senior leader talent drop into the marketplace. And a lot of them actually are stepping into consulting roles, which I get super
Mhm.
excited about because there's no
Yeah,
shortage of
right.
opportunity out there. And there are a lot of companies that can do exactly what you're talking about. They can hire in or advance up some administrative and tactical talent
Yeah,
and then outsource some of that vision and strategy to consultants that can help create what I call the roadmap of
right.
where you're headed, where you need to go, and then allow your team to take that path and carry it forward.
Yes.
And I
Yes, I
mean,
mean,
take the whole part about marketing roles not being the same. From week to week, the job
yeah.
of marketing changes drastically. I mean,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
an ever changing landscape and it's advancing at warp speed right now with
Yeah.
AI and new tools and search. I think AIM last week we heard search is going to drop by 25%. So you've got to be ready with other initiatives. Like that's game
Right.
changing.
Yes, it is game changing. And I think back to your point, I mean, if you are at that point where you're like, hey, I'm really looking for my next best venture, I'm not seeing something in the market, and you're at that more higher comp package, and you have been sitting in more of a visionary seat, strategic, fractional and consulting is absolutely a path I would really highly recommend, because you can really actually have even more joy out of it, of being able to work and partner with different organizations, add that value.
Mhm.
You're still going to sharpen your own toolbox at the end of the day, and being able to implement something where they can afford it, and it might be just a different landscape than it was just even 5 years ago. And I think
Yeah.
I really encourage people, don't start so late, start sooner. And you can always still look long term at different options on the table, but it keeps you engaged, it keeps you influenced on what's happening inside the market. And then
Yeah.
also, lastly, I would say with the marketing is what we're hearing from a lot of our clients, and what is it that they really want, right? If you know that you've held that higher title, is that if you are really looking for more of like one work home in a traditional work setting where you are in that role, I would say we really are looking for people who are entrepreneurial, people who can roll up their sleeves, who can take the vision and strategy, but also bring it back to the ground level and still be able to implement and do the work. Maybe have a couple people on your team, right, that is still helping facilitate it. But the
Yeah.
problem is, if they think you've been at this role and their assumptions are always on the table. So I always say you've got to control your narrative, because assumptions are
Good
just going to
advice.
be there, as
Mhm.
you want to make sure you are marketing yourself as saying, okay, I'm going to reposition myself, right? For at least as a today solution. You can
Yep.
always, right, when the market shifts and maybe there's more opportunities, you can always go back into more of that strategic high level role. But if you are like, no, I really need something, right? Because a lot of people are in these situations right now, you have to reposition yourself. You have to be able to be a doer. You have to be able to get your hands, roll up your sleeves, and to be able to get back into the trenches and still lead through your vision. That
Yep.
is really where companies are saying, okay, then we can afford your comp, right? They can't afford your comp, and then you're still not able to execute and do some of the work down here, right? The delta's too big, so they have to make compromises. That's whenever you see a lot more marketing manager roles coming out right now, because they're like, well, we'll compromise on not having the vision in house right now, because we need somebody to actually do the work. So if
Yep.
you are looking at, okay, how do I reposition, make sure your headline, right? I think this is something I was going to say earlier on that I think is critical, is don't write that you're a real estate executive. Nobody knows what that means. I
Yep.
want to know, what executive in real estate are you? Are you a marketing, right? Visionary marketing expert? Are you an operational real estate leader? Are you a multifamily, class A operational executive? Are you an affordable housing leader, right? I think that's so critical, is that you specify, niche down on like what is it that you bring to the table. And when you're in those conversations, you can open up and you can
That's great advice.
explore more of like what really you have to bring to the table. I think oftentimes we can be too broad, and then we expect when we get on those interviews, we're going to niche down, but you want to niche down. So when you get on those
Yep.
calls, you can really open it up and say, this is everything I can bring forward. This is how I can bring the value for you on today. This is how I can solve your problems. Because again, you don't have to be in that organization forever, but you don't want to be on the market for over 12 plus months right now. And that is unfortunately what we are seeing inside the market for these types of roles.
It's a long time. What advice? I have two questions here. What advice do you have for the candidates that are sitting out there for 10 and 12 months? What should they be doing with their time right now while they're prospecting? I
Yes.
think that's one of the most important pieces, that I see people that lose a position and then they're fired up and they're getting out there and then they sort of drop off. And then it's kind of hard to come back because you lose your confidence a little bit. And I think the
Yes.
more you can stay involved and connected in places within the industry and even, giving some advice, giving some, commentary, it keeps you connected to what's happening in the industry. And then you don't feel so disconnected.
Yes. I think that's a great question. One is it always depends on what market you're in right now and what is your personal needs for you and your family at that time. So my answer would change depending on what that would look like for somebody. My best advice is if you know the landscape right now is very competitive and that it is brutal out there, I would say don't wait when you find out the news that there's a transition coming up. In some cases, if you have the luxury of time, okay, take it. If that's something you need, take it and then reevaluate and then start your search, right? But if I don't have the luxury of time, now I'm heading the market with over thousands of other people getting laid off from 3 different groups around the same time. Now is not the time where you say, I just need a break. Now is the time you have to, unfortunately, to roll up your sleeves and say, here's my game plan, whether it's partnering with like leaders on deck or on your own, go to your own
Mhm.
inner circle, whatever that looks like, and start taking action. Start getting on LinkedIn, start socializing, start having those discovery conversations. Biggest thing too is find ways that you can continue to add value to others, right? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, at least for our inbox, I'm not exaggerating when I'm like, if I don't keep up with it on a every 3 days, like it is really difficult to manage.
Mhm.
And I always pay attention to the people that really are just not copying and pasting a very blanded message that has no personality, has no connection, right? And I'm not saying you need to go over the top, but people who really want to build that relationship that are looking long term are the people that typically will get on the calendar because I'm like, okay, there's some alignment here. We're not looking at just things on a transactional basis. And I think there's a lot of value in how you position yourself. How are you showing up strategically? Who are you selecting to reach out to? Start coming up with your game plan. Don't wait. Time is not your friend right now. And that way, I always say too, nobody thinks it's going to be them who's on the job market for a year. Everybody thinks they're going to be the one, right? And that's what we all hope
Mhm.
for. But I would say, especially executives, I always tell them the harsh reality is it's going to take 6 months to a year because typically that type of clientele that we serve are very culturally driven. They're very selective of where they want to go next and where they want their brand, what their reputation behind what brand. Now, I would say, there is times where that can be cut in half, but the times where it's cut in half is who do you know? How are you showing up? Are you staying consistent? It doesn't even need to say you have to have a great attitude, but are you staying plugged in? Are you, right?
Mhm.
You're going to
Who's
go through some
advocating for
really
you?
Yes. Are you making those right connections at the right time? Are you taking opportunities and you don't have, like, look, I am not an extrovert. I'm actually a huge introvert.
I
So,
don't
but
believe you.
yeah, right. And so I know, and so I found different ways that I can show up and thrive. But
Yeah.
like, I could not be at events all day. I could not be doing
Mhm.
shaking hands all day in person. But I found different ways that solved that for me, like doing podcasts or,
Yeah.
or doing like really deep one-on-ones with people, right? Where you're really intentional about this is who gets on my calendar, this is who I'm investing my time in, because I know the ROI is there, right? You see big picture.
Yep.
So, while I don't touch a lot of people, I go deep with a lot of people. And I
Yeah.
found that that has really worked for me. So if
And
you're
that's
not
such
an
an
extrovert,
opportunity with the podcast too. Like, hey, if you're
yes,
listening to this right now and you've got a conversation to share, or
yes,
a good host can help you figure out what your conversation is, right?
yes,
What your top topics are. And I just think about the network that we're a part of, the Multifamily Media Network,
yes,
always looking for good guests. I mean, all
yes,
you have to do is email the Multifamily Media Network and ask Jennifer to place you with a host, and you'll get
yes,
placed. I think
yes,
any podcast host out there is looking for guests to fill slots. And if you've got a good conversation to have, you can probably get on a couple of them. And then you've got this evergreen
absolutely.
content to share yourself with.
Yes.
It's scary, I'm not gonna lie. Like, were you a little nervous the first couple of times you came out and podcasted?
I just yeah, I didn't know what to expect and I wasn't sure
Yeah,
if I was gonna love it or not. And then before you know it, it's like, wow, I really do love it. I can
yeah.
do this. And
I agree
it's
with
really
you, like,
fun.
I can do the in-person events every couple of months. I like to go out and be in
Yes.
person, see the people, but I also love these solo conversations where you really just get to go deep with people.
Yes. Yes.
I have another question for you that I don't wanna forget.
Yes.
For those that are out there, have been in leadership roles and executive roles within the, operator side, there's an opportunity to cross over too, right? There are a
Yes.
lot of vendors that are looking for really good leaders from the operations
Yes.
side because you know how to get in the door,
Yes, yes.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
I there's
there's
huge,
opportunity.
huge opportunity. I actually think it's very strategic, very, very strategic. I was actually talking to another executive leader that I had on the show that'll be rolling out soon. We actually talked about this and where if you are on the owner operator side, and let's say right now you're not seeing what you're wanting to see in the market, but on the vendor supplier side, it actually is doing pretty well. It's stabilized for the most part, depending on who they're serving. But I would say it's a great time for you to be able to transition over into that side. And I always say you can always go back to the owner
Mhm.
operator, but you will be more there's so much value sitting on the other side of the table. And then you can see how many owner operators are how they're running their
Yep.
business. What are the challenges? What's kind of the blueprint? How are you learning a new language on that side of the table? And then you can either fall in love with that side of it or say, you know what, this is a great time for me to accumulate maybe 2 to 3 years of experience working on this side of the table, add that to my portfolio and then go back, right?
Yeah.
And we were just talking about this with another leader and he even said eventually I do want to go back to the owner operator, but the knowledge and the experience that I've gained over just in this short period of time, he's like it's only going to best serve him long term. And I
Yeah.
think, they want leaders like you because there's so much value you can bring just sitting on that side.
Yep.
And I think
Yeah.
right now
It's
is a
tough
good
for them
time.
too. It's tough for them to cut through the clutter and get past the
Yes.
front door of a lot of, whether it's facilities or it's marketing or it's, operations or IT or prop tech. It's hard to get through to the right decision makers, and nobody knows better how to get through than the people who have been sitting in that seat.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's an awesome opportunity. I always highly recommend it. And like I said, if you don't like it, then and you can
Yeah.
always go back. And I think there's so much value. And I think, you'll find that you'll like a lot of aspects of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, this has been such a great conversation. I want to reiterate the communities that we both are hosting. I think both of us came at it from a passion project. I know I did.
Yes.
I feel like you did too, right?
Yes.
It wasn't from a profit standpoint.
Right.
It still isn't, to be honest.
Right.
For us, it's very much a passion project. But I think that there is just a vast, vast difference in investing in that type of community for yourself and for your ongoing support and ongoing just network building. And when you think about, I know the cost of your community is very similar to the cost of our community. And I'll tell you guys, it is less than what a lot of people pay per week on fast food.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I mean, it's less than what a lot of people pay per month in a gym membership. So, when you think about taking care of your career, it is the stable piece that holds everything else in your world together.
Mhm.
It's
It
your
is.
financial means. Like, really think when you go into this year, next year, the year after, what is important to you to invest in your career? Steve Matry and I had this conversation too that you can't count on your employer to invest in that for you.
Right,
They might send
right.
you to a couple of conferences or, give you access to a few learning environments, but they are not going to pave your career path for you. Their plan is to keep you where you are, not
Yes.
to make sure that you grow in all the directions you want to grow. So, if you invest in your fitness and your well-being and you invest in your health and you invest in, the important things in the other ends of your life, I think this is such an important piece as well to invest in your career and your knowledge and continued network.
Yes, I think it's absolutely. I think at the end of the day, you're going to find your money's going to go somewhere, and make sure it's invested in back into you and your
Yeah.
family. It's a really long-term way of thinking. And back to your point, there's some employers who are really encourage that, and then there's some employers who intentionally they don't want you to be overly marketable. So if you
Right.
gain all this experience and then you have all these new opportunities because you've gained that, right? You
Yep.
want to just make sure that you're responsible at the end of the day. We're all accountable for our own growth. And
Yep.
the people who go the furthest in life are the people who take that initiative and say, I'm not going to look at this as a cost, but rather an investment, and there's
Yes.
something you're going to gain out of it. And it might not even be exactly why you joined. It could be
Hmm.
coming from many different verticals that come out of that. And then it will say that essentially that community is what opened those doors. So
A hundred
I could
percent.
not agree more is that don't wait 6 months to a year, especially in the job search world. Like if you're looking at, hey, I want to get ahead. I want to be
Yeah.
proactive. Do it when you have more financial security. Don't do it whenever you're at a point where you're like, I didn't realize it would be looking up and I'd be this long out of work. And now what do
Yeah.
I do? You want to
Yeah.
be proactive.
Agreed. And I think it's also important to note that the people who also invest in that community with you are like minded individuals. They aren't there for free.
Yes.
They put an investment in, and so they come to get something out of it. So,
Yes.
we talk a lot in our community about our ideal member is hungry, humble, and smart. It comes from Pat Lencioni's leadership book,
Yes. Oh,
If
yes.
There's No I in Team, and the ideal team member. They're humble. They come to give and get. They know they can learn something from other people in the community, even if they feel like they might be the smartest person in the room. I learn every day from the people in our community.
Oh, yes.
They're hungry. They want more information. They're seeking that information, and they're smart and savvy and just, I'll call it scrappy. Like they're
Yes.
looking for resources. They're looking for tools and tips and tricks and faster ways to get the old traditional things done. And those are the people you want to surround yourself with.
Yes, couldn't have said it any better, Janet. And I'm just so glad that we actually had time to carve out to share all the things. And I'm so appreciative of you having me on the show today. And it was so fun just diving into, some critical things that are important to all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of what you're putting out there. And
Thank
listeners, if you don't follow Kelsi, follow her on LinkedIn. There's just a wealth of conversations, and you can learn something whether you're just learning it for your own position or you're
you.
getting to know the candidates that are out there. And for gosh sakes, when you hear her talking to a candidate out there, like take a moment to share it, take a moment to comment on it, give it wings, because these are
Yes.
really good people out there looking for their next great landing.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
Kelsey, thank you for everything you're doing for the industry. I'm so impressed with what you're doing and where you're growing and the directions you're going. One more time for our listeners, where can they find you?
Yes, if you head over to CoryExecutive.com, Cory Executive.com, follow us on LinkedIn, Leaders on Deck, Cory or Cory Executive Recruiting, or myself, Kelsi Cory. Follow us. We would love to engage with you. Reach out and say hi. Don't be strangers. We always say, like, I always get the people that are like, I've been stalking you for so long. And I'm like, man, I would have loved to have known about you this whole time.
Right.
And I think, the more that we have community, even if you're a confidential person who's just behind the scenes, like building those relationships is
Mhm.
everything. And I know Jen and I always appreciate building our connections out there and seeing where those relationships take us.
Absolutely. Kelsi, I didn't ask you the one final question that I ask every single guest
Okay.
because the podcast is called Optimized. I ask
Yes.
everybody, how do you personally optimize each day to make sure that you approach the day with 1% better in your performance? What little
That's a
things do you
good
do
one.
personally?
Okay, I think my calendar. I mean, I will look back at my calendar that day and say, what could I have maybe improved on? Who got on the right calendar that day? Or what could I have maybe included on that? And so I am always looking at my calendar, and that kind of keeps me sane to
What a
some
good
sense,
answer.
especially like checking out to be a mom, in the afternoon or,
Yeah.
whenever I've got my daughter. And how
Yep.
do I make sure I clear that space so I'm set up for success the next day and the following day? So I would say try my best to be optimized. That's been a work in progress, but it's gotten a lot better. And that has really been that's created so much more opportunity being present with the right people at the right time.
That's such a great answer. I think so many people think about what they do each day moving forward, but looking backward too on what went well and what could have been better is so
Yes.
impactful. Thank
Yes.
you so much for joining me,
Yeah. Thank
listeners. This is
you.
all brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. If you heard something here today that makes you curious about being a guest on a podcast, email over. If you liked
Yes.
this one, please like it, share it, comment on it. If you think that it will help someone in your network, share it. Let them listen to it. Kelsi,
Yeah.
thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Janet. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for taking the time today for this session. I hope you found a bit of inspiration and wisdom to optimize your performance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share it with your network. And remember, this podcast is proudly brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living. If you're a marketing influencer, be sure to check out Cadence Marketing Solutions at cadencems.com. We've made it our mission to support marketers and lead you to the voices, resources, and tools that impact your success in this fast-paced industry.